it with you. You know, you're going to need it. What if you get down there and another group comes through and they're having trouble? I mean, you're going to feel terrible if you could have helped somebody out and you just you're like, oh my God, my rope's up in my kayak, you know? So take that thing with you. So a lot of stuff about your throw rope. Of course, moving on, we got to talk about, like, are you prepared? You know, oh, number 33 is a great one. Have you tested your new gear for comfort before you hitting the river? This happens to me with my clients all the time. They'll show up with this nice $1,000 dry suit, and other than wearing it for 5 minutes in the outfitter store, they've never worn it before. And they're about to spend 6 to 8 hours with me. And 5 minutes into the trip, they're like, oh, you know, they just can't breathe. It's distracting. So you got to really outfit your gear and make sure that it's all fitting properly before you get into a game day situation. What else? Oh, time to paddle, you know, number 42. Make sure you meet your buddies on time. And guys, I hate to address this one because I bet there's some folks in the room that do this. But when and there's always one guy who's perpetually late for every outing. But when you do that, you're stressing people out. You know, you're rushing the trip, of course, because people have deadlines to get plays. I see some smiles and some looks. You know, it really, even though your buddies may go, oh, it's okay, it's just 30 minutes or whatever, they're pissed. They really are. You know, and they may not tell you that, but they really are. You know, number 46, if a run is new to you, is there someone in the group who has the skill, knowledge, and desire to show you down? You know, people do this all the time, especially in mountain clubs. They'll show up to a run and they haven't really talked to anybody beforehand. They just kind of got the general, okay, like, oh yeah, we'll take our time, we'll show you down. But, you know, then there'll be somebody standing at the river that knows the run. They're kind of like the impromptu check river, and all of a sudden they realize they got 3 guys that have never paddled that run before. So if you're going to something that is new to, you need to make sure that you've got people there that have the knowledge, skill, and know-how, and have committed to the time of taking their time to show you down. And then, of course, while you're on the river, you know, 47, always be aware of where your paddling buddies are while on the river. This is a huge one. There's so oftentimes I'll see a group come through a rapid, and some of them will wipe out, some of them will be so happy that they made it, and of course, they're never really, they're so happy, they're all in their own world, and they're just not aware of what is going on with all the other folks in their group. Some people I've seen have great trouble, and yet their buddies are over there high-fiving each other because they just weren't aware of what was going on. So you got to be really, really aware of everybody in your group. And 49, try to be considerate and do not rush your buddies or needlessly slow down the trip. Of course, people sometimes will make so many adjustments and stuff to their boat. You know, so again, you're slowing people down and getting them chilled on a winter day. Number 51, the golden rule. On the water, you're responsible for everyone upstream of you. So stay close and eddy before going too far downstream to aid in a rescue. A good leader will spend more time looking upstream than downstream. You know, make sure that your buddies are clear of a danger before you actually commit too far downstream to aid in a rescue. And this happens all the time. The guys in front are just looking downstream. And if something happens to the guys in the back, then there's really no one to help them out. And the guys in the front all of a sudden, in a very short amount of time, can get too far downstream to really affect a rescue. So you always got to look upstream and make sure that everything's going well before you commit too far down through a rapid or into another rapid to be able to help the guys out behind you. So guys, number 54. We'll talk about that one too. It's a long one. But if you hear your inner voice trying to talk yourself into running a rapid by thinking one of the following, you know, I've made it in the past, I'll probably be fine, or my buddy made it, I'm just as good as he is, or I want to paddle the whole run with no portage. So I get that one all the time. People will get out to scout a rapid somewhere and they'll be like, oh man, I'm going to run the whole run. And they were going to run this rapid, but they don't really want to, just simply because they want to go home with, man, I ran the whole river. You know, I see it every day. You know, of course, the famous, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, I better do it. You know, all that stuff, if you're telling yourself that stuff secretly in your mind, it's time to shoulder your boat and portage. It really is. What else? So guys, the one thing about your score here, if you score yourself and you score whatever you score, you know, your score, you got to realize, affects not just you, but all your people that you're paddling with. It really does. And being prepared, if you have a really high rating, let's say you have a 500 or a 450 after you scored yourself on whatever paddling mission you have, you know, it really helps to boost your confidence too, because you're going into it knowing you've done everything possible to prepare for that day. So guys, let me tell you a little bit about my past history. When I kind of learned from the School of Hard Knocks. And after I've been done for just a couple of years, I tried to run the Sunshine Rapid on the Green Narrows. And it's a big waterfall, it's really awful. And it was my first big Class 5 plus rapid that I ever ran. And this was about 18 years ago, I believe. But I, of course, flipped at the top of it and actually went over the drop upside down, breaking my arm in the process. A horrible wipeout. I was very lucky though, because people that had done that before me actually are still in wheelchairs to this day. So I got really lucky with being spared there. But at the time, actually for the next 10 years after that, whenever anybody asked me about my crash at Sunshine, I always told them, it's like, well, I made a mistake, I caught my edge. I made my upstream edge, I just caught it, and I flipped, I made a mistake. But what really went on there is that I had a score of -210 if you added all this stuff up. Going back now and looking back upon myself. So with that in mind, I just wasn't aware. So many people are never aware of what their score really is, and they just blame a simple little thing when there's really just tons and tons of stuff going against them when they end up getting hurt or having a bad day. And then of course this summer, me and Zach Frazier were able to go get 11 runs in the green in one day, and actually I had a score of 550 going into that, so that's kind of good. Of course, another crash that I had was Linville Gorge. There's a river up in North Carolina. It's really scary too. And same thing, I went under a boulder the size of this building. It was awful. I should have never come out the other side, but somehow or another I popped up the other side, thankfully. And but for 10 years afterwards, I told everybody, I was like, well, I had bad beta. The guy that was leading me down, well, he gave me some beta that wasn't that great, or I misunderstood what he said. And of course, I ended up going under a boulder. So for 10 years, that was the sole reason why I wiped out on this day. But what really happened is I had a score of -60. I had like 40 different things that I did wrong that day. But I didn't really see that because I wasn't being honest with myself. And then of course, I was able to do the Stikine in a day. And going into that, that's a really scary run. And I was able to do it because I had such confidence in it because I did everything possible to prepare for it. So that really helps you out as well. So guys, fun is what paddling's all about. And paddling with your buddies is fun, no doubt about that. But what I'm trying to sell you on is take fun to the next level. Paddling with your buddies while having a team approach is really good. It's more rewarding. It's just a richer experience. So how do you transform a group of friends that you currently paddle with into a team? Well, you start by maximizing your score, and it's all in the details. Safety is in the details. And then choose other paddlers who are on the same page, and form a game plan. And this one's really big, guys. Paddlers are notorious for never practicing. Most sports you go out and practice 9 days for every game day, but so many paddlers just go and every day is a game day. It's like, whoa, I'm going to the Nantahala this weekend, or I'm going to the Oconee this weekend, or whatever you're going to paddle. It's your game day, but you really didn't have any practice leading up to that other than just the anticipation and excitement about going. So when you're practicing, you should be going out and doing flat water workouts with the guys that you plan to make this run with, especially if it's pushing your limits. You should have practice river days where you go to easier rivers and just do really hard moves. So if you're going out every day is just a fun-filled paddling day, it's just a game day, you're not going to have as good a luck as you would if you actually had structured practice days. Every third or fourth day at least, try to have a practice day in there. And of course, don't allow your teammates to be casual, and then share the jobs. I really like this one. Number 7 and number 8. Share the jobs with logistics, and then also number 8, empathize with your teammates. For example, I have this guy that I always paddle with, and he is a really good climber. And so when we get to a tough portageur situation, he's always the guy that grabs the rope, and he's the first one that goes. He knows that I'm terrified of heights. So he'll be the first guy to position himself around or help me lower myself down or whatever needs to be done. But he's a hand paddler, and he is hole-baked. He gets stuck in every hole imaginable. So with that in mind, I always know when I'm cruising downstream and I move over a little ledge hole that is a tight little move on me. It's no big deal for a kayaker, but if you're hand paddling, I always have to take extra caution for him too. He looks out for me. He's empathizing with me. He knows my fear of heights. I'm empathizing with him and know that his weakness is if there's a hole, he's going to swim out of it somehow. So of course, in conclusion here, gang, is that when friends become teammates, you get richer, more rewarding experiences with a much greater likelihood of success. Thank you. If you'd like to see these 55 things, I think they're really valuable. And if you'd like to see them, they're on that web address there on the blog, and you can check it out. So, any questions, anything? Please.
Your initial video, was that a stunt motor, or was that somebody actually trying to do that?
Oh, I don't remember. Well, you'll start to see this guy on videos quite frequently. So I really, he just wants to stay anonymous for a while. Trust me, we weren't filming him. He was, without his approval.
So how many times have you broke or something?
I broke my arm that one time. I was very inexperienced. I was such a bonehead, to be honest, for even trying what I was doing. The only reason I ran the rapid was because my buddy, I was getting my boat to walk around it because I knew I wasn't ready to run that rapid that day. I wouldn't have been ready for another 2 or 3 years, to be honest. But the only reason I ran it is because as I look back before I grabbed my boat and started walking, my other buddy, who I thought I was just as good with as, he was very competitive with him. And here again, he was my friend, so we were really competitive, working on increasing our skills. Well, I see him getting in his boat, he's going to run it for the first time. I was like, forget walking this thing, I'm going to run it too. I'm just as good as that guy. You know? So our friends help us out on this side, but our friends get us in trouble over here. You know, they really do. You know, teammates help you out over here. And that's the whole reason I ran it. As soon as I peeled out of the eddy, I just flipped. I was like, I'm going over